Hello, welcome to Texas Check-In. What happens when the Makeda Department of Chemical Engineering connects a current student with a former graduate from the department? We invite you to meet 1985 Bachelor of Science alumni Tony T.J. Crawford and Oralua Aditutu, who graduates this May.
Oralua, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, my name is Tony Crawford. I am alumni of the University of Texas. I graduated in 1985 when you were not even thought about, probably.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a senior chemical engineering student here at UT. I transferred to UT in 2020 from UT Arlington, and I'm graduating in May, and I hope to work in a research lab. And my goal and purpose, I guess, is to want to create spaces within engineering that allows and encourages for representation for Black women in the chemical engineering industry.
When I was there were very few Black females, really very few Black students then. And so I don't know about you, what are there still very few in the chemical engineering school now? Yeah. And I know being the only one, it can be scary, frustrating, because you can't find anybody to really identify with. At least that's what I thought. It was hard for me to find somebody to identify with. So what ended up happening, I was in the engineering school. So I tried to find advocates and allies to kind of keep me going, because I came from a small high school in Lubbock, Texas. And in my graduating class, there were 110 of us. I happened to be the valedictorian, so I got this valedictorian scholarship to attend the University of Texas. But it was interesting because my school was mostly African-American students in the high school. But what was interesting in my younger days, my mother was an educator at the elementary school. And so when they started integrating in Lubbock, my mother was one selected to go out to a elementary school in Lubbock. So me and my sister were the only two Blacks in the whole elementary school. And not only that, my mother and another Black teacher were the only Black teachers in the elementary school. So I ended up there. But what's funny is that when I started applying for schools, I had a white math teacher named Mr. Barton. I want to make sure I put his name in there, and a white counselor named Martha May. And they advocated for me because they knew I was really smart, in high school. So they advocated for me to go to like the science symposiums, to go out to the SWE meetings out at Texas Tech and things like that. So I ended up doing that, So anyway, I don't know about you. I'm not sure how you grew up, but I think my younger years prepared me to be the only one. And even in my industry, there's still not a whole lot of Black females, but it's still, though it prepared me to be the only one and continue to be a leader, to bring in that next generation of Black women. So, but what about you?
So I was born in Nigeria.
Okay.
So I kind of like had the opposite experience where like everyone looked like me. And I was actually thinking of going into law school after secondary school. But then we moved here about 7 years ago, and I took pre-AP chemistry, and I really loved it. And whenever it was time to apply to colleges, my mom was like, "You like chemistry? Maybe you try chemical engineering." And that was how I got into that. I think coming here to the States was when I first had racial experiences like that, because back in Nigeria, most people look the same way. So it was kind of interesting navigating that in high school. It's like a 16-year-old compared to like African Americans here who've been here their whole life. And even now, it's been pretty difficult for me. It was difficult up until like maybe during this past year where I finally got used to being the only one or the only other one. And so, yeah, that's kind of like my own story.
That's interesting. Yeah, and
Yeah.
us, so you're coming to a part of the country that, you know, I mean, cotton was the, you know, the main, so they brought in slaves. So, you know, you get the, I mean, my great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents were slaves, you know, and they worked their way into being somebody, you know. So even my mother, so she actually graduated, went to Prairie View, got her teaching degree, got her master's from Prairie View, was working on her PhD, but she could not she couldn't attend the University of Texas. So it's interesting now that even now we're still experiencing this. I figured to be more involved, but it's not. So I feel like, you know, I'm of course I'm way older than you, but I feel like it is still my responsibility to continue to bring in that next generation of Black women and Black students, because it's a process. You know, slavery, you know, it's something that happened to us, but all at the same time, we're still trying to come out of that. So we're still preparing our people to, you know, as far as education, as far as continuing to go to that next level. So anyway, to me, even being at UT now, I still advocate at UT to bring in more Black students, because I know that with it being a public university and the changes in our demographics here in Texas, they're going to have to, you know, not only with Hispanics, but with Blacks. So to me, that is so important. What kind of challenges have you had being at UT?
I would say a lot of it has been, at least when I first got here, I struggled a lot with imposter syndrome because I transferred, and then it was during like the Black Lives Matter like uprising in 2020. So it kind of felt like I got admitted because of that for me. I know that's not the case, but it just felt that way. And so I dealt a lot with imposter syndrome, and it kind of really affected my mental health, like classes and just like in general. And so I also didn't have, you know, a community here, and that was pretty difficult in just navigating like the engineering, white dominated engineering space here. I've also like, and just like with the cultural differences with Nigeria and here, it's like an ongoing like culture shock for me. So that has also been difficult, but it's gotten better for sure. And now I also feel that responsibility to advocate for younger Black students to be in this space.
Yeah. When you say imposter syndrome, what does that mean to you? What were you doing? What was different, imposter syndrome?
Yeah. I think for me, it meant that I didn't feel like I deserved to be here. It just felt like I got lucky to be here, if that makes sense. Just because, like I said, I had also applied here, like freshman year for me was 2018. So I applied to UT from high school, but I got capped. And so, and then I got out of that and then applied again. And that's when I got in. So it just felt like getting in at 2020 whenever there was George Floyd going on and the Black Lives Matter protests going on. Felt like I was admitted because of that. But that's what it felt like for me. And so when I was having classes in my first year here, I just never felt like I deserved to be here. or that I knew what was happening, or I understood any of the chemical engineering things, because I also was a chemistry major at UT Arlington. And so I had to also adjust to chemical engineering, and it was just a lot for me until I just felt like an imposter, and it kind of like took me into a bad mental health place. And yeah.
Wow, that's interesting because I think about when I entered UT, I was just trying to struggle to stay there because there were so few of us.
Yeah.
And when we went through just our basic classes, not chemical engineering, just basic classes, to me, they were weed out classes. And if you didn't have the advocates and the allies, and thank God, I actually had people around me who wanted to see me get through classes and see me succeed. I actually survived a lot of the weed out classes. So when I did get to my chemical engineering classes, you're right, it was like I was here, but how do I survive? How do I stay here? And it ended up being a group of us, I think it was 5 or 6 of us. Of course, it wasn't anybody who looked like me, but it was 5 or 6 of us. And we used to study together in our chemical engineering classes. So what is interesting, what I learned from that is that I may not find who looks like me, but there are always allies and people who want to see me succeed. You didn't know Dr. Makeda, but I had Dr. Makeda for a couple of my classes. Of course, that's what the school is named after now.
Yeah.
But I was the only one in his class. But Dr. Makeda was one of my allies. He would also tell me, okay, I need for you to come to the picnic, come on over. I need to see you, make sure you come to the picnic, So it was that kind of interaction with him that made me feel like, okay, I really am supposed to be here. No matter what I'm thinking, or no matter how I feel I may be thinking, I'm just as smart as everybody else in here. My grades have got me here. And I'm telling you this because this is what I'm thinking now. My grades have got me here. And I'm just as smart and brilliant as everybody else here in this class, But he is the one that was an ally for me. Okay, fast forward, I graduated from UT, went to work, and I went to one of the companies I worked for was Fluor and Enterprise. Okay, I worked for Fluor for 20 years. I worked for Enterprise for 10 years, but there were allies. Okay, I was the only Black in the process engineer. Well, there were two Blacks maybe. I was the only Black female. Here we go, Black female in the group on projects. But every time I would go to a project, as far as a client was concerned, everybody thought I was a secretary or the admin assistant. So they would ask, hey, can you give me some coffee? And I would have to nicely say, I am the engineer on the job, but I can show you where the coffee is. So you can get your coffee, And this would happen to me on every project. So I had to always feel like I had to overprove or extra prove who I was. I had to dress nicer, had to look nicer, because I was the engineer on the project. But I looked different than all the other engineers. I was a Black female.
Yeah.
But there was always that director. That's when I was an engineer, a process engineer. There was always a director who advocated for me and who was the ally. And who would say, come on, Tony, you're going to this meeting and I need for you to explain what's going on. He wasn't explaining, I was explaining. So I had to make sure I was up on my stuff and knew what I was talking about. So I always felt like I had to be extra smart and I had to be extra on top of everything, But all at the same time, by the time I left the project, the client respected me. But once I went to the next project, it was like it started all over again because it was a new client. this black female, you know. But anyway, it was like it was a vicious circle. But what was good was that the people who actually knew me at my companies advocated for me, made sure I got my training, made sure, you know, things were done, but all at the same time, it was like constantly, you know, you always run into those people in the field or your clients or whatever who don't see you the same way. So, but I just want you to know that you deserve to be there, not because you're an imposter. I know the George Floyd stuff was going on, but you are just as smart as everybody else in your class. So you're graduating, and you're graduating from the University of Texas, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm proud now. Of course, now that I look back, I'm very proud to be a UT graduate from the engineering school because it's one of the top in the country. You can't beat that. Of course, I have my scars. You have your scars, but those scars make us stronger. And right now, you are blooming where you're planted, and you're blooming in the engineering school trying to get through. But all at the same time, you have those scars to not only take you to that next level, but to advocate for the next Black female that's coming in. Now, as far as being a female of color, how has your professors treated you?
Most of my experience at UT has been online. So I haven't really made any strong relationships with any of my professors. And I'm also an introvert, so I don't usually like go up to professors and like chat with them or anything, but they treat me the same way as everybody else, but I also think like having Black professors would be a step forward in our department, because I, for the first time, had a Black TA in one of my classes this semester, and I was like kind of shocked about how I felt comfortable approaching her, and because like I said, I'm an introvert, so that doesn't naturally come easy to me. So, but I felt like super comfortable to go up to her and ask her like a question about Aspen, and and so that was kind of what made me realize that that we need more Black leaders and Black professors and Black TAs, just Black representation within the department, because it goes a long way. Because usually I wouldn't have done that. I probably would have just emailed our professor or something, or try to figure it out by myself most of the time. So just having her there kind of just made me comfortable and like at ease to like just ask her a question. And I think for a lot of Black introverted students, that can also like go a long way.
I agree. Yeah. It's easier when you see someone who looks like you.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that either. We had no Black professors. We had no Black TAs. Of course, across campus in the business school or in the chemistry school, I used to see some Black TAs, but in the engineering school, we didn't have anybody. So I agree with you there. Even in my industry, which has been engineering and oil and gas has been a tough one. It's getting better, but it has been a tough one to break because it's been mostly older white men who I've had to deal with, but they look differently on me being a Black female than they would somebody who looked like them. I thank the Lord that I did have advocates, and it's been mostly white females that have, who I've had a stronger connection to. There has also been the white males who I've also had allies with, but I've always had to feel like, even then, I had to be different around them. I think some days I felt like I wasn't being myself. Of course,
Yeah.
the older I've gotten, you realize that after a while, if they don't like you, it's okay. It
Yeah.
is what it is. But in my younger days, I felt like I had to be a little bit different, carry myself a little bit different. Because there were mostly white men in my industry. Well, majority of white men in my industry. But all at the same time, that has taught me to find my voice, which means I've had to speak up. It has forced me to speak up for things that I felt like weren't fair, and for things that I felt like could make a difference for that next generation coming in. So even now, I still do that. That's why, I was excited to talk to you. I just think it's important that you do have your voice and you find your voice. And being an introvert, I just want you to know that you're just as important and just as, like I said, especially when you take those next steps, if you go into research, research is awesome. I have my youngest son is in research. He's a biochemist, but he's in research. But when you take those next steps, you need to find your voice and continue to push and maneuver for not only yourself, but that next generation of Black females. Finding your voice is important. Also, seeking out mentors. Now, another thing to me that's important is having a mentor. You said you're an introvert, you did a lot of things online, which tells me I don't know how much mentoring someone had you, I don't know how much you have sought out people to be your mentors. I'm not sure if you have or not.
Yeah. I did this program with the Society for Gender Equity
Okay.
program thing in UT, and so they have like this mentoring program but it's like for STEM, not like specific to engineering. So I have been mentored by a couple of STEM alumni. So
Us being alumni, I think it's important we come back and give back, especially mentoring that next generation. Mentorship helps you understand, where you're going, where you're trying to go. And it also, to me, gives you that confidence to know that, okay, I'm good. I'm going in the right direction. Or do I want to do something different? Or I mentor several young ladies. And it's one that I've known since she was 19, which is really interesting. I've known her since she was 19 and now she's 45 plus. But I have seen her grow from being this young, she was getting ready to go off to school when I met her. She was getting a scholarship and they made me her mentor. Just to see her go through, she went through the University of Texas, got a chemical engineering degree, went off to work for various companies, and now she's a vice president. But during that transition and doing that, it was me as a mentor got to see her transition and change and to see her grow from this young girl to this young woman or now older woman, and just watching her make a difference in the lives of others, not only at work, but also in her community service life. And just seeing, and then when she needed me, like if something, she needed advice on what to do at work or whatever, I would be there to, and we'd go out and talk and things like that. But I think having a mentor is important. And I think that's important even now for this generation that they're going to bring into the University of Texas, or even companies. They need to make sure these people they're bringing in, they're mentoring them, they're sponsoring them, they're having opportunities for them, because it helps not only that person they're bringing in, but it helps the company to move forward. When you have a mentor, even now when you're at the University of Texas, if you had someone you could talk to and and find out what where are those groups that maybe there was more, Nigerian type groups, or groups where there's more females where you could relate to, or even just groups where you may have an interest to, maybe you like sports or you like to knit or whatever, when you have a mentor, you can find that information out a little bit more. To me, it's always important to have somebody, like I talk about these allies and these advocates. It's important there, but you also need to have someone in your life who's going to mentor you, and then who wants to see you succeed, who wants to push you to those next levels. And when you got questions about, do I really want to go into research? Should I go out in the industry? Maybe I'll stay here and get my PhD. I don't know. It's, to me, it makes a difference in your life when you have somebody. It's just like your parents. Your parents were always there to guide you. Well, now that you're blossoming into your own self, it's good to have someone who's there to kind of show you and guide you and mentor you. So, any questions you got for me, or like I'm doing all the talking, like running my mouth? So.
Yeah, I had questions, but you mostly answered them with as we talked. Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to ask is, what can the department here do to attract more Black students and even like more Black professors and Black leaders?
I think that, well, I know that they are bringing it to the forefront. UT is a major university. The department is a major department, but they know, they have realize that they do need to do that. They need to bring in more Black professors. They do need to bring in more Black students. And they are working on that, believe it or not. They are working on that. Of course, bringing in more Black students, that means that they have to get out and show themselves. I think about the HBCUs where they actually get out and show what they got. You know what I mean? To me, as UT tries to make that transition and make that turn or make that pivot to bring in more Black students, they're going to have to show what they got. Show that you come here, you can truly be different. You can, we're here to support you. To me, that's important right there. We're here to support you. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but they've brought in several PhD students, and I think it's about 6 to 7 of them now. I can't remember. They need to continue to do that. It should be an ongoing thing to bring in, Black students as far as the PhD students. It should be some type of program or something they have to bring in that, or when they do bring in those Black undergrad students, they need to make sure that they have things in place to make sure they keep them. Like make sure that they're understanding what your needs are. With you being from Nigeria, make sure that there's things in place to make sure that you have what you need to continue to thrive. To me, that's all important. That's important. And with I think Lydia Contreras, Dr. Contreras, is taking another position in the university. But I think they're realizing the importance of how to retain the students they bring in as far as Black students, and how to retain not only students, but staff and professors. And I think it's a slow moving, it's baby steps is what I call them. But they are trying to do that. They are trying to do that. I know back then, I think they were fine with it being a few of us there when I was, in school. But I think they have realized, in order to meet the demands of what Texas has, or even the country, what Texas has, and they're going to have to step it up also, or they will not meet the needs of that industry, as far as industry is concerned, or what that next generation has. So, and UT is going to have to survive. So they have to pivot and they have to make changes also.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also gonna talk about, or maybe just bring up, my experience with like opportunities within engineering. There are a couple of times I would reach out to a professor and uh, talk about my interest in like maybe their labs or like their research labs, and they would accept me, and then I'll hear like a week later that one of my classmates got into that lab or something like that. So I just wanted to talk about that and how like even like with opportunities within this department, there's been like some challenges with getting the professors that are here to encourage Black students or minorities to work in their labs and to work with them. Um, but yeah, I don't know if you also had any experiences with like opportunities within your department like back then.
Back then, of course, like I said, it was very few of us.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that what it taught me to do is I had to speak up for myself, you know, and even though I may have contacted, and I think about even now, if I can meet you face to face, for me to say, hey, I'm interested in your lab, hire me, you know,
Mhm.
I think they don't, they either they're gonna blow me off or they have no choice. Sometimes, and this is where this goes back to, I know you're an introvert, but all at the same time, and what you'll find out coming out of school, the world can be an unfair place, not just for being Black, but just period. The world is not fair. It isn't.
Yeah.
There's nowhere where it says, once you come out of UT, the world will be fair. I mean, it just doesn't say it. But what you have to do is continue to, and unfortunately, we as Black females, we continue to fight for our opportunities. And a lot of times that means stating what you want. A lot of times that means sitting down, calling somebody, say, hey, I want to come talk to you about this position. Or, because a lot of times, I know professors get busy, and I'm not sure
Sure, yeah.
what's going to happen, but they get busy, and they're just like anybody else. I mean, I was a department manager for enterprise, so I was over as far as I was over all the standards, all of the pipe specs, all of the valve specs at this company for all of the company. It wasn't just a certain area, but for all the company. And so a lot of times I would have engineers call, say, hey, I sent you this email, you didn't respond. And I would say, I am so sorry, you have my attention now. Okay. And a lot of times, even for us as Black females, sending an email may not get it. But maybe you call them and talk to them, say, hey, I'd like to come talk to you about this position. Or go find them. I'm big at that. I have 3 boys, and I tell them sometimes you have to go and, actually say, hey, here I am, But being a Black female, what you will find out, even once you graduate, going into research, you'll start at a level, whatever that your entry level. But all of a sudden you realize you've been working at that entry level for 2 or 3 years. Hey, I want this next level. I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years. You're gonna have to go talk to your boss. As simple as that. Say, because a lot of times if you're doing your thing and you're just happy and content, they'll leave you alone and let you be happy and content. But a lot of times you have to go out and seek what you want. It has nothing to do with a Black female. It's about what do you want? And that's with all of us. Okay, Black, white, whatever. It's about communication. Communication is so, so important. And you can bloom where you're planted. But once you bloom, what do you want to do next? You gotta let somebody know. Okay. So you need to, you need to go talk to your boss. And that's not just that one time, where you're saying, okay, I'm happy here. Now all of a sudden I want a raise or a promotion. This is like an ongoing conversation. And when I say that, it's like, hey, how are you doing? How are your kids? How's this? How's that? Go back to work. Hey, how are you doing? I mean, it's ongoing. You get to know people. You get to network, and networking is so important. So then you start networking, get to know people, get to know your boss. And then maybe when that next level of research come up, what's going to be in his head? Hey, I know Alua. I need to give her that next raise or give her that next this, But it's all about communicating, networking. And in our country, it's not about everybody looks alike. Like you're coming from Nigeria. So there's white, there's black, there's Asian, there's Hispanic, there's all these different people. We have to learn how to network with everybody. It's just part of it. I mean, it's just the way our country is. And what I have learned about that is that it's important to understand as many cultures as you can and understand and have advocates from everybody, not white, not black, but everybody, because this is the way our country is made up now. My children went to a diverse high school, very diverse. There was Asians, it was like 30% Asians, 30% white, 20% black, 20% Hispanic. I mean, it was just like very diverse. So when they got ready to go to college, that's what they were expecting. They wanted that same diversity because they found so many different kind of friends and so many different kind of, it wasn't all about being black or just being Asian or being. So to me, even when that professor that you talked about, instead of emailing him, call him. Communication is so important, just so important. And I know you're an introvert, but guess what? You're going to learn how to step out of that as you grow older. As you grow older, you'll learn how to, you can still be your introvert. When you go home, you don't be bothered. Great. But when you're out and you're advocating for yourself and you're advocating for that next researcher that's coming in that looks like you want to be able to talk. The only reason I'm doing this now is because I've learned how to communicate over all these years. I've had to deal with all kind of people, from vice presidents to the people who clean the restrooms. I mean, it's just the way it is. Communication, learning how to talk to, in the evening when I'm getting ready to go home, before I get in my car, there were a few ladies I would see on our floor, and they were, dumping the trash can and all this stuff. We would talk about, how's your children? How is that? How is this? How was your day? How was your weekend? And those ladies, if I needed anything, would do anything. If I needed something, I know who to go to, But then I learned how to deal with the vice president of the company. So it's a matter of dealing with everybody from all sectors in all positions. And it's called communication. And I want you to step out. I know it's hard being an introvert, but I want you to learn how to step out. And even when you see people on the elevator, good morning. I mean, right there, you just stepped out. You may not have wanted to, but you just stepped out, Or even if you see this professor you want to talk to, walk up and talk to him. Say, hey, I heard it was a position. I'm very interested. Because once people know you, right now, you're emailing. Does he really know you? Not really. You're emailing. He may see you via the Zoom. But going back to that personable, knowing people, networking with people, to me, is so very important. So just trying to step out of your comfort zone and go ask them. Because I'm big at that. If I want something, and email is fine, texting is fine, but actually going and meeting and talking and starting a conversation, getting personable, to me, that go get your lab job. Get what you want, girl.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was really insightful.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely a little difficult to like just go out and talk to the professors, but I mean, I've had to do it a couple of times, so it's not that bad, but
They're not
yeah,
gonna
I would
bite you, I promise. I promise they won't bite.
Yeah,
They won't bite.
yeah.
You have to, it starts now. It starts where you
Mhm.
are, which is in college, learning
Yeah.
to advocate for yourself, learning to network, learning to communicate, and
Mhm.
knowing that you are a beautiful, Black, smart female that's about to get her chemical engineering degree. And everybody can't say that from the University of Texas in Austin. And everybody can't say that. So you have credentials, girl. So with credentials, you can go ask for some things. Okay. And I tell my mentees this, once you get that degree, you have a network of the University of Texas alumni and graduates. When your resume comes across their desk, guess what? You think they're good? I mean, that's the first thing I'm gonna see. Oh, she's an alumni from the University of Texas. And then she's a chemical engineer. Right there, I mean, getting through the chemical engineering school at the University of Texas is not an easy task. But they're gonna see that. Or even people who know what kind of engineering grads UT puts out. So you should not have a problem finding a job. That should not be an issue. So, but yeah, it's all about communicating and networking. And it's okay to be an introvert. It really is. When you go home, you don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But it's important when you want to live out your dreams and your goals to be able to talk to others and network with others.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's all the time I had for today.
Okay. Okay. No, this has been good. So what I want to say to this next generation, that you will be actually talking to, because you're in between. So now you got I'm leaving you responsible for that next generation. Okay.
Mhm.
Is to know that when you make it into the University of Texas, you belong there. Okay. Nobody can tell you anything different. Okay. So that next generation of engineers that come up behind you, you need to tell them that they belong there. And don't let anyone tell them they don't belong there. They have gotten in with grades, smarts like everybody else. And then you have to be the example. I'm passing it on to you. I've already done my part, and I'm passing it on to you. So now you're the example. Okay. So, and you want the best for them. So think about that mentorship. You know, that next generation that's coming up behind you, how can you mentor them and sponsor them and encourage them? Think about that. And then networking. Those professors, go meet one today. Oh, you know, just do your thing. Go to the I don't know, I'm assuming they still had a career center there.
Yeah.
Go see what they got over there. I mean, let them know what you're interested in. I mean, us as Black females especially, we have to step out. And we have to not only step out for ourselves, and you're there for a purpose. You're a leader. You're a leader, you're there for a purpose, and this next generation is looking up to you to make a difference. It's just the way it is. My ancestors, I stand on their shoulders. You stand on the shoulders of your ancestors. And they don't want us to be looking crazy. They want us to be leaders like they were. So, but anyway, I can't wait to meet you. I will be up there in April. So
Okay.
I'm on the EAC board, so I will be up there in April to meet you.
Okay. I can't wait to meet you either.
Yeah.